one of my daughters was walking by and she overheard one of the sessions. And she said, I really like that guy. And I said, what do you mean? I said, well, he's not like these other guys, because she's a big audiobook person. I listen to these audiobooks, but this guy performs. He doesn't just narrate. He doesn't narrate. He performs. And I was like, well, yeah, that's right. He does.
It's a
So
nice compliment.
Even on our cover, most covers put narrated by. Your books always put performed by.
Have you got my comb, young boy? The woman asking tearfully, crying through her smile. Paddy's fear grew as he took another step back and thought, a banshee? A real banshee? The banshee lunged at Paddy, her arms reaching for him like branches extending from a tree. Give me my comb! Give me my comb! Warren Martin, how are you?
I am fantablistic. And how are you?
I'm very good. I'm having a good time at the moment. I really enjoyed your book. Of the books you and I have done, well, of the books you have honoured me with letting me narrate your work and turn it into an audiobook, and it is an honour to do work for authors. But of the ones we've done so far, this is my favourite. And it's quite different to anything that I've done of yours before.
Yeah.
Because although the title Paddy and the Banshee makes it sound supernatural, which it is, but for me, just how deeply personal it was. Yeah. But also just, well, I like to perform audiobooks. And there was so much scope for big performance in this one. Now, anyone who hasn't listened to it or read this yet probably has no idea what I'm talking about. So let's start at the beginning. Tell me about this book, Marty, and where did the idea come from, and how did it all come together? Just explain it for anyone who is confused by the title and me saying it's personal, and just away you go. Let's just unfold this.
I've been writing a bunch of different things. A few non-fictions and fictions. I do mysteries, stuff like that, but nothing about myself. And then I had this thought about doing a banshee story because I had some thoughts in my head about Ireland and mythical stuff. So I actually started writing the story as a fantasy. But then as I started getting into it, a couple of little memories kind of start popping up in my head, and part of the story, my story, I was born in the United States, but my parents got divorced. My mother was from Ireland. My mom and dad met in England. He was in the army, so they came back. But I was born here. But then they got divorced, and so she swooped me off back to Ireland for 4 years, and that's where this happened when I was like 6 years old. But as thinking about the Banshee and thinking about Ireland got me thinking about other things, and so it evolved into a memoir. And I try to use a little humor, like, the Banshee. I mean, of course, to me, banshees are real. So even today, I'll say they're real. So, and you have to read the book to find out why I say they're real. Or maybe they're not real. Maybe there's something else to it. But I mean, anyway. But
for anyone that doesn't know, can you explain what a banshee is?
Oh, banshee is one of these mythical, scary women, that kind of hangs around when near death, and that's one of there's dozens of, well, there's more than dozens, there's tons of what banshees are, but they're the mythical characters, women who kind of wail, moan, and groan at you, or supposedly when death is nearby, they're nearby. There's stories about combs, like, hey, banshee combs, if you see a comb on the street, don't pick it up because it could be a banshee's. Things like that. And those are memories I had from Ireland, stories I was told about. Hey, you find a comb out in the road, which I really did find a comb out in the road one time. And I was all proud and everything. I had that in the book too, and it's like, they got mad at me for picking up that comb. So that's a true, so everything is in there is true. I mean, really to happen. There might be a couple of things that might be, imagination of a 6-year old, but at the same time, yeah, the Banshees, true stories, legends in Ireland. So that mythical stuff.
So the first part of the book, which is set in Ireland when Paddy, which is you, is
Yes.
a young man. The Banshee experiences in the book, how close are they to Banshee experiences you had?
Well, to me, they're real. I mean, like I say, a kid's imagination, especially when you hear stories and stuff, can. And there's things in the book about going to boxing practice. Because the priest had, you know, I mean that was true. I mean, the marvels of Google now. I can actually go and look on the road and see where the church was, where the house was, measure it. I did in the book too. I measured it, and so yeah, to me at the time, it was very real. There's other things in that book that are really for a kid or would be odd to people reading it today and saying, "Wow, what do you mean you had no bathroom?" Or what do you mean you're walking down the road in the middle of the night in a storm?
Yeah,
Well, that was life. That was the way it was.
yeah.
So, or what do you mean you your aunt was chopping a chicken's head off or something? I mean, these are
Oh, that
things
all
that.
happened. That all happened. The
Oh,
chicken's head went on. The chicken
yeah,
was your first time you saw a chicken running with a head off, and
yep, that really happened. That's where that saying comes from. I was like, well, yeah, you mentioned that. We mentioned that in the book about it's like literally seeing a chicken with its head running across the road. So true stuff.
wow. Because the banshee stuff is very very scary. I mean, on a Hitchcock level or a
Well,
Spielberg level or whoever I mean, very very scary and for me so well written, so easy to perform because it was all there on the page,
yeah,
about this really scary situation. I mean, we're not going to give too much away. I don't want to spoil the book because it is a great read or a great listen, I hope.
yeah,
But wow, as a kid, that must have just because there's like I said, I don't want to give too much away, but there is a situation there where you are close to death, and this is a time after you've had some pretty strong evidence that when a banshee shows up, there is a death, and then not long after, you were in very poor health, and then there was another banshee incident. Why do you think why the banshee saved you or decided that it wasn't your time?
well, I'll give. Actually, I just did a YouTube short just yesterday with the ending part of your performance at the
Hmm.
very end about how Patty believes that there really are banshees and reapers and
Mm.
guardian angels,
Yeah.
and the guardian angel just does a better job. I mean, that's the short version, but that's what we
Right.
said at the end. I mean,
Yeah.
um, so that's not giving anything away, but that's how the book ends. And yeah, I mean, so that's what my belief, my personal belief, my faith, and everything is like. There's guardian angels out there, and there's reapers and banshees. They're all out there waiting their chance. So
So you haven't had another banshee experience since then, since you left
mm,
Ireland and went back to the
no.
US. Okay.
Although there's a part in the early part of the book, uh, we mention about my wife. She'll probably get mad at me for mentioning it, um, but it gave me a memory. So we've been married a little while, and my wife, one night, middle of the night, I started hearing this wailing like a banshee. It's like, what? I didn't even know what's happening at first. I'm like, I hear it. And as you performed it, it got louder and louder and longer and longer. And it's like, it's my wife, wailing like a banshee, but she's dead asleep.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to physically shake her and shake her to wake her up. So that stirred a little memory, but that really happened. And she did that periodically for years. I mean, we could never figure out the why or anything, but so that was the closest I got to another Banshee experience in later life as a grown up. Because this is like 10 years after I left Ireland, and
Yeah.
I was in the army then, and married. But so yeah, so I didn't want another Banshee experience anyway. So
No, I don't think anybody ever wants one. The first Banshee experience, never mind anymore.
oh
So why then did you decide to call the character Paddy instead of Warren or Marty?
yeah, just a part of it was whatever that word is, anonymity or whatever you call it.
Anonymity. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I see.
just
Right.
and to tell the story in a third person, and also later in the story, there's part about my sister, and so I was kind of trying to, even though she knows that the story is about her and everything,
Yeah.
but at the same time, in the book, kind of leaving the names out and just, except for Patty, so that's
Yeah.
part of it. And I think it read better and listened better as a third person type of memoir, whereas a lot of memoirs it's first person. I
Yes.
did this and we went there, and
Yeah.
so I think it just made for a better read and listen.
Yeah. I mean, I knew reading it that it was about you. I don't know whether you told me or what, but or how but I knew all along it was you. And so later in the book, when you share some very personal trauma, I think is the only way to describe it. I'm talking about particularly chapters like It's Raining Men, when
Oh
you
yeah,
open up about a very disturbing incident in Paddy's life. In fact, you had a couple of these incidents. How hard was it to write that stuff?
oh yeah, it was, but it wasn't. Because, I mean, I never told anybody about those incidents.
I bet.
I mean, till the book, I said, okay,
Yeah.
well,
So the book,
and
this book is the first time you've actually let the
share those
demons
experiences.
out.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
that's in the part two part. I mean, and I even told my wife about, I hadn't even shared it with her until I did the book.
Wow. Wow.
Because of what they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also decided to do it because of, sharing. It's not a hidden agenda. I guess it's a hidden message
Yeah.
in the book and telling the story
Yeah.
about, how children can be influenced and affected, and
And abused. Let's face
and
it. That's
abused
it.
and growing,
Yeah.
growing up,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
And just things I see in the news lately, here in the United States. I mean, just things kind of struck me as things that are happening
It
or
is
have,
something that is talked about now that never
yeah.
used to be talked about.
And and there's still a stigma. I mean, there's still victims of abuse, and so that are afraid to say anything. And it's like, well, it's okay. You don't have to live with this guilt or whatever it is.
Well, it wasn't your fault.
I mean, it's not your fault. I mean, and it's kind of, I mean, brushing it off by saying, well, life happens. Well, it does, but at the same time, you can move on, and you
Mm-hmm.
can have a good life if you choose to. That's one of the lines in there. If you choose to do so, so that's why it was a combination of things that just got me thinking about it, and it all started with that Banshee, and then kind of escalated from there. And there's still things I've probably left out. I mean, not any incidents like that, but just every other day I remember. Oh yeah, what about this or what about that? I could have put that in. My wife even told me when she was listening to you, one of the parts said, "What about the bicycle?" I said, "What? Remember the bicycle?" Oh yeah, I did forget that part. So I added that part in, that part we did on the bicycle at the park, and
Yeah, and that
I
was
just
really good because the character of your mother, it was hard to explain because she did some things and she was
yeah,
forced into certain things, and it made it difficult. It made it difficult. I'm going to say this, and I don't mean this as an insult, but it made it difficult for her to feel likable as a person. It felt like there was, because she she
Yeah.
went through some stuff and she made some decisions that, some people may think were bad decisions. But anyway, in the bicycle story, it then suddenly goes like, oh, she had an absolute heart of gold. It changed. It was very. I mean, because originally the bicycle story wasn't in the book, was it? And you said to me, I'm going to add this piece. And I think you mentioned it was because your wife was listening back and had mentioned it to you and you hadn't thought to put it in. But I think it was so very, very important to balance out everything that went on, because it is, I'm not going to give it away, but what she does is beyond wonderful. And certainly not something that my parents would have done.
I don't think any parents would have done it.
No, and it really is just wonderful what she did, and it makes you go, no, whatever she went through, whatever personal demon she was fighting with, she was such a good person, deep down inside, and she did the right thing, and that story changed the book for me, and I'm so glad. You have to tell your wife she was right to push you to put that in, because it made such a difference to the book for me. It was like, wow, okay. Yeah. Did you have, we talked about you opening up about some very personal stuff, and then there was the bicycle story. Did after you'd finished the book, did you feel changed? Was it cathartic? Was it a good experience getting it out there finally?
Yeah, I mean,
because you're not a young man, Marty.
I'm not that young yet, but anyway, yeah.
What do you want to share? How old you are, just so people a bit of perspective?
I am 69.
So at 69 is the first time you've come out with a lot of this stuff and put it out there for people to. So afterwards, how did you feel?
It felt good. I mean, it felt kind of, well, maybe should I even share this? There's that part of you that says, well, it's in the past. It happened. You moved on, but should I share it? And is it appropriate? And I think it's appropriate.
Yeah.
There's some stuff in there we talk about that, I talk about stereotypes and things like that, where bigotry and stuff. It's like, well, I actually had one of my friends from high school read a portion, that part we're talking about, the later on in the book.
The Raining Men chap? Yeah.
I had him read that because I wanted to say, okay, am I saying something that's going to be offensive?
Mm-hmm.
And he came back and told me, no. He said, I'm sorry this all happened, but it don't offend me. So, but there was a reason I asked him, because I knew him personally.
Sure.
And he was he's a gay man, and I've always known that from when we were in high school. It's like, so I thought, well, I just want to make sure I'm not writing something that's gonna
for anyone that's confused, and I don't want to be too graphic, but your experience was you were abused by more than one gay man in your life when you were very, very young and innocent. And what came across in the book, I mentioned how the bicycle story gave me the view of your mother as of having a heart of gold. When in the book you explained that, you could be bitter against the gay community or whatever, but you realized, no, these were just bad people who happened to be gay. It didn't mean that all gay people were bad. So you worked that, but considering what happened to you, that really does also say something about you too as a person, and what a good person you are, and what a good heart you've got, and clearly you've got it genetically through your mother, because she clearly had a good heart.
There we go. I'll have to write that down. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but that was good too, because you do explain that in there, and I'm sure you wrestled with that too, because it must be it would be very easy to just say this person was like this and did this bad thing, and that means all of those people are bad, and it doesn't mean that at all. It just means all bad people are bad, and that just happened to be, yeah. So what are you hoping that people get from the book, Marty?
Well, I hope they get entertained by part one.
It really is entertaining. Yeah.
I mean, part, and Part two, I think, learning the lesson how I'm thinking maybe there's people out there that might read it because, oh, this might be a fun story, but at the
Yeah.
same time get the idea, well, there's a message here that he moved on.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
not only moved on, I mean, he moved on right away. He didn't dwell on it. He didn't, hold resentment for the rest of his life, but he did change a perception he initially had,
Yes.
because I initially mentioned in the book, the first seed of hate planted, the second seed of hate.
Yeah.
I mean, we get these seeds planted when we're young, and unfortunately, a lot of people grow up and they keep those seeds of hate, bigotry, racism, whatever it might be, and they never get past that and
Mm.
realize that, well, it's like you just said, it's bad people, not that it's a bad community.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's bad people in a community or within a
In
group of
all
people.
communities, there's bad people,
Yeah.
and they do
So
bad things. Yeah.
so hopefully you'll get across that, maybe it'll help somebody cope with their situation or something they've buried down deep and they don't want to talk about it or just wait until they're 69 to say, hey, oh, by the way, so
So when
that's it.
did you really thrive then as a person and go like, well, this is who I am and these are my beliefs and I'm not prejudiced against this and whatever? Was that when you joined the military? Was that when that you started to come together and work out who you are and what you stood for?
Yeah, it was a gradual. I mean, initially I still kind of had some of those feelings, but
Okay.
as I met people, they kind of went away. It's like it didn't even occur to me, it's kind of like with race, there's racism in the world, still is, unfortunately, but and something, even when I thought about it later on in life, like I heard a quote recently about, oh, if I see a black person, I automatically think ABC. And I never thought that way. And even later in life, I wonder, is that weird that if I see a black person in a room, I don't think black? I just see another person. I mean, it's like, so somewhere along the line, or else it was just an angelic thing happened the whole time. I don't know which it was, but I just never, it went away. That hatred I had, that bigotry I had initially went away,
Yeah.
especially as I met people,
Yeah.
and even in the military, even though supposedly the military didn't have
Yeah.
gay people, but
So,
they're
yeah.
there.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're everywhere. I mean, it's part of life.
Yeah.
And so
Well,
I
prejudice is
realized that it was bad. It was, like you said, it was a bad person, not bad group of people.
yeah. Yeah, and prejudice is based on ignorance. I mean, and then once you understand, then and it's prejudice. Racism and all the other prejudices are based on ignorance and fear. And then
It's taught,
yeah,
it's taught too. See, it's learned.
right,
It's not a
yeah,
genetic thing. It's learned.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
'Cause-
it's a shame, but one day it can change. We can change it.
well, people like you can change it because you are a writer. It's the writers in history and through the centuries, their work. Once you've written it, it's out there forever. And people can read it and interpret it, be entertained by it, talk about it, start conversations with it. The amount of conversations I had with my wife at the end of the day, because she says, oh, how was your day? I said, oh, yeah, I was working on Marty's book today, The Banshee. And she said, oh, yeah, the horror story. I said, no, it's not a horror story. She said, yeah, but the stuff you told me about it had like banshees in it. I said, it does have banshees in it, but it's way more than that. It's bigger than that. It's the best one of yours that I've done, the one I've enjoyed the most. And it's a wonderful journey. I mean, there are so many heartbreaking, the moment in Ireland when you're in the taxi, there are so many
Yeah.
parts of it that just pull at your heartstrings. and make you wonder, how did Marty come out of this okay? And that's why I asked you, was it the military? Do you think without the military you could have you could have taken a wrong turn in life and could have had issues with, I don't know, substance abuse, or I don't know what, people do weird things to cope. Do you think, what was your rock that made it, that held it all together for you? Was it the military there?
Well, the military was part of it. I mean, there's friends, new environments, but it's funny how life happens and you end up from point A to point B. And the rock, I guess you mentioned, military is in there, but the people I met in the military, and more importantly, the woman I met about a year after joining, what was it, even a year? It was 8-10 months after I joined the military, my wife. I mean, and I'll make her cry when she watches this, but she was it. I mean, even today, because I had a stroke a couple of years ago.
Yeah, we did a book about that.
We did book that. So again, she's there. She's been my rock, and that's. I think she had a big influence in how I thought.
Yeah.
And of course, she entertained me along the way. Her and her mom entertained me along the way. Because I grew up a Catholic kid, and in life. Now she was her mom were Baptist. I don't know if you have Baptists in England or not. But,
yeah, sure. It's all part of the Protestant faith, Baptist, Presbyterians. Yeah.
So one of the things I learned about from them was that Catholics aren't Christians. It's like,
oh, really? They believe that?
I said, really? He said, well, it was interesting. I converted them over time, but, it worked out. So, but yeah, the rock of my life, my wife, she I don't know if there's anything she said in particular or anything, but along the way, like I say, changing my perceptions of people, the inner bigotry I held, it went away. And I don't know what particular moment it happened, but again, I think it's because I met people along the way too, who, and it's like, they're not bad people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, this book is a rip-roaring ride through your early life. It has everything. It has fantasy, it has horror, it has danger, it has heartwarming moments and heart-stopping moments as well. There's a lot of jeopardy in it. And then it all comes out, and it ends up in New York, which is where you moved to after the time in Ireland, and also seeing the world through the innocence of a young man growing up and trying to make sense of what the world is and who he is. It's a wonderful book, Warren. It is just amazing. It's called Paddy and the Banshee. It is more than a ghost story, but particularly the first half would be ideal for Halloween. If you're looking for something to enjoy, banshees and reapers are scary. They're all in here in the first part of the book, but it's such a journey, the book, to go through. It is wonderful. It's out now. Now it's an audiobook as well. And if you'd like to get the book, if you go to the description down here, there is a link to Audible. If you're watching this in the UK, if you're one of the first few people who say, can I have a free copy? And you email me at graham@macmedia.co.uk, I will send you some codes. I've got some. I won't tell you how many I've got, but I got. Well, how many did you send me? Was it 10? Is it 10 you sent me?
I sent you 10.
Yeah, okay.
I might be able to come up with some more, but...
Okay. All right. If you're in the UK, if you're in the first 10, I will, if you say, can I have a free book? That sounds really interesting. Graham@macmedia.co.uk. I'll put that email address in the description as well. And check it out. It's wonderful. Warren Martin, thank you so much for the privilege of letting me tell your story in Paddy and the Banshee.